Thanks for listening to Entre Nido, the show where we help you live the Nido life. By listening to Entre Nido, you'll learn how to develop multiple streams of income. You'll hear amazing stories and takeaways from professionals in their field. And you'll learn more about yourself and how you're wired. The average person spends 90,000 hours at work in their lifetime. Student loan debt is at an all-time high, and 41% of all divorce is based on finances. If you feel like you're surviving, but you wouldn't exactly say you're thriving, then you've come to the right place. Whatever stage of life you're in, Entre Nido is here to help you be a better entrepreneur. Break out of that rat race and start living your Nido life today. And now introducing your Nido host, Matt Neff.
Welcome back to Entre Nido. On the show today, we have Derek Gaunt, who is an author and negotiating expert. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Matt Neff. Thank you so much for listening in today. My guest is Derek Gaunt. Derek is an accomplished trainer and negotiations coach for the Black Swan Group. He has over 17 years of experience in providing negotiations and leadership training to corporate, government, and law enforcement personnel. It's a really great interview today. You're actually going to see firsthand how he uses these negotiating tactics, gets behind what the person wants, what the motivations are. And so many instances we're negotiating with somebody, we don't have 6 months to a year, 5 years to get to know them, to create this trust and these things like that. So Derek has to be able to get in, figure out what they need, speak their language, as a result, save human lives with zero loss of life. It's pretty amazing. He's also from the camp of Chris Voss and Brandon Voss from Never Split the Difference. Such a good interview today. We're going to talk about the power of the pause and being silent. We're going to talk about empathy, and these are all real-world things that you can apply today after you listen. We would love to hear from where you're listening from. If you would want to reach out to us on social media, it's Entre Nido everywhere, along with our website, entrenido.com. Entre Nido is ENTRENEATO.com. And we're going to be promoting the book, Ego, Authority, Failure, Using Emotional Intelligence Like a Hostage Negotiator to Succeed as a Leader. So excited for you all to hear it today. It was a great interview. And as always, we'd love for you to consider supporting the show either through our Patreon page or by writing a written review on iTunes for us. Is a huge help. If there's anything we can do for you, we would love for you to reach out to us on social media or through our website. Drop us a line. You can email us at entrenido@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. That's all I have for today, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Now on to our interview with Derek Gaunt. Well, welcome back to Entre Nido. My guest today is Derek Gaunt. Mr. Gaunt, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So excited to talk to you today. We're going to be talking today about your book, Ego, Authority, Failure, Using Emotional Intelligence Like a Hostage Negotiator to Succeed as a Leader. It is a mouthful, but it is going to be incredible today. We recently did an interview with Brandon Voss, Chris's son, which was really good. One of our most top-rated episodes, which is really cool. So I'm excited to talk to you and some other people from the organization as well. But before we get too far, I would love for you just to promote away anything you'd like to drive our listeners to.
I'd like to drive you right to the book, Ego, Authority, Failure, available to you on Amazon. We've got an audio version of the book that should be coming out. So if you go to Amazon, you'll be able to find it under the title. And also, your listeners should know that the Black Swan Group is continuing to change people's lives with our method of interpersonal communication. And we've got a couple of live events that are coming up for the remainder of 2019. The next one will be in August in San Diego, California. So go to blackswanltd.com and click on the link that'll direct you to the live event webpage.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we have never officially met. We talked briefly off air, and so I'm excited to get to know you better and your story. And what we do with all of our guests is we love to hear a backstory of how you got to where you are today, being with Black Swan, being an author, things like that. So I would love to hear more about your story.
So I started my law enforcement career in 1988.
Awesome.
I became a hostage negotiator in 97. I got promoted to the rank of sergeant in 2001, where I took over team leadership responsibilities for our hostage negotiations team. And then in 2004, I got promoted to the rank of lieutenant, and I took over command of the team. And that's where I remained up until my ultimate retirement from the police department in 2014. I didn't quite leave law enforcement. After I retired from the police department, in essence, I walked across the street and got hired by the sheriff's office, and I ran their crisis negotiation unit for about 3 years before I finally punched out of law enforcement for good in 2017. I met Chris Voss, the CEO and founder of the Black Swan Group, back in 2001 when he transferred from New York to the DC area as a part of the crisis negotiations unit. At the time, I was pretty influential in the hostage negotiation circle in the Washington metropolitan area. And he was one of the head honchos at the FBI when it came to negotiations. So our paths crossed. We became fast friends, and I started doing contract work for him on a part-time basis in 2010. And the rest, as they say, is history. And it was through the Black Swan Group and through the constant refining of the Black Swan method and my personal experience that led to the penning of Ego, Authority, Failure, which was published in February of this year.
That's so cool. Question for you. When you meet someone like a Chris Voss and you have your extensive experience and the things you've seen and heard and gone through, is it like an exclusive club? Is it almost like the presidents? Because you always hear about the presidents like hanging out, like they're all friends, like off the off the media and things like that. That President Clinton would hang out with President Bush and this and that. Like, is it almost like a mindset and a club of like it's a pretty exclusive club? That's me saying that. Not I know that you wouldn't say that it's an exclusive club, but you know what I mean? Like, is the thought process there, the thinking there, similar?
Yeah. I don't shy away from the term exclusive club because It is. I mean, let's face it, cops are A types and specialty cops like your SWAT operators, like your hostage negotiators, are A types of the A types, and so it's a very exclusive club. Cool. We are like-minded. And we are pursuit of constantly trying to get better, and we know that there are very few people on the planet that do what we do, and so we want to hang out together. We want to learn from each other, and we tend to be very tribal-like. The negotiators are tribal-like, and the SWAT operators are tribal-like also, and so we have an affinity for one another, and we get along really, really well. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about the local, state, or federal level.
That is so interesting. Yeah, I think about that. I've read a couple FBI books as far as like negotiating and of course, Never Split the Difference and reading body language and things like that. Is that like something you can ever turn off, like when you're just like at a party or just relaxing, or is it always on, would you say?
It's always on.
Wow.
Now I will admit to you that it's not as, my blade isn't as sharp as it used to be, because I don't have to be at that level of awareness all of the time, but it never leaves you. When I go to a restaurant, I'm watching the movement in the restaurant, and I'm watching the people in the restaurant. And it's funny, when you go to a restaurant, you can pretty much tell, you can have a pretty good gauge of who's in the room, because your cops are going to want to sit as far to the back of the restaurant as they can, so they can see everybody that comes in.
Yes.
And for example, your firefighters want to be as close to the front door as they can, because they want to have an exit way to get out. So Firefighters are always looking for a way out, and cops are always looking for whom they're going to have to fight coming in. So they want to see who's coming in the door
and not be surprised. That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing right there. It totally makes sense. I have friends that think they're cops and they're not, that do that. I think it's just a power play, but I've found myself doing that now. Like I have to be able to protect my wife. Somebody comes in, I don't want to be surprised. So no, that's interesting.
Yeah. I still find myself to this day, I'm very hesitant with having my back to the door. I've always got to see the door, and that's been ingrained in me since I was a young pup as a cop.
That's awesome. I love that. That was my guess. I was thinking, I'm like, there's probably not a way to turn this off or like vacation mode or anything engaged there, but that's awesome. Well, we're excited today to talk with you about the book, and the book is Ego, Authority, Failure: Using Emotional Intelligence Like a Hostage Negotiator to Succeed as a Leader. I'm totally interested in this title. I'd love to learn more about the book, and I know our listeners would as well.
Yeah. So Ego, Authority, Failure, it really introduces the world to a new concept called hostage negotiator leadership. And what hostage negotiator leadership requires is that leaders interact with their peers and their subordinates with the same level of deference, the same level of thoughtfulness that hostage negotiators use with hostage takers or other people in crisis. It requires them to subordinate themselves to their employees while at the same time staying true to the mission of the organization, and understanding that it's not all about them or their objectives, meaning the leaders. One of the first interviews I did for the book let me know that this was an appropriate topic and title. As a first-time author, you don't know. It's like, as Chris said, it's like having a baby, right?
Yeah.
You don't know if the topic or title is appropriate, meaning you don't know if people are going to like your baby or think your baby is ugly. So you're always struggling with whether or not you're in the right ballpark. It's a great idea to you, but is it going to make sense to other people? So I interviewed Chief of Police David Nye, who's of Fredericksburg, Virginia Police Department. And I quote him in the book as saying that he said, "I've never been a negotiator, but it seems to me there are a lot of parallels between leadership and hostage negotiation. And it's all about how you treat people." And I said, I'm getting that from a guy who was never a negotiator, but he understands the parallel. So I knew I was in the ballpark as far as topic and title were concerned. So, I mentioned H&L, or hostage negotiator leadership, and it's pretty much all about using your emotional intelligence and specific interpersonal communication techniques to manage difficult conversations to become a more effective leader. And any leader in any space is involved in difficult conversations every single day.
Quick question. It's essentially not running from problems, but understanding that, listen, this is part of my job is problem solving.
Yeah, but not being in a hurry to problem solve. That's where most of us miss the boat. We want to get into our problem solving mode so we can move on to the next problem. But the issue with that is everything you say causes an emotional reaction on the part of the person receiving the message. And most leaders don't take that into account when they are, for example, delivering bad news or talking about change. They don't take time to demonstrate to the other side that they understand the way the other side, i.e. their downliners or direct reports, view the lay of the land. They don't take the time to ask the question, how is what I'm going to impart on my employees during this conversation going to make their job harder, going to cause them angst, going to make them nervous, going to upset them?
Wow.
And so that's what it's primarily based on, not putting your goals and objectives on the back burner and really demonstrating to your downliners, to your direct reports, to your peers that you understand their view of the world from their frame of reference.
That's so interesting, because I would think, the classic cop movie where there's the police chief and he calls the rookie maverick, police officer and chews him out, and there's this big back and forth, and this police chief is essentially a cartoon character, because I'm sure it's not like reality, like a Lethal Weapon kind of thing, where it's I don't care what you think, do it, this and that. It seems very tough and very gruff, and to quote the Enneagram, these 8s, these challengers, these people that are born to challenge, and if things are getting too goody and too sweet, everybody's getting along, they want to just kind of instinctually inject drama into the situation. So the other, I hear what you're saying, which is amazing, and it's actually very exciting, because it is so important, because I think every person listening to this has had a terrible manager or a terrible boss before that makes their life a living hell, and they dread going to work. So I love what you're saying, that you're training people to not just strong arm someone else or be a bull in a china closet, but to think about, okay, everything that I'm saying is they're going to be reacting to somehow, and is this helping me or not, or hurting me?
Yeah. And people, whether they're your direct reports or not, anybody anywhere on this planet would do what you ask them to do if they felt like it. We all have that power.
Yeah.
The challenge is, how do you make them feel like it? Well, it's certainly not by strong arming them or my way or the highway thinking. It's about deferring. It doesn't mean that you are absolving yourself of your responsibility to carry on the mission of your organization. But the days of we're going to do this because I said so, they're gone. And if you create that environment, you're going to be looking at a high turnover rate. And there are studies after studies after studies that show that people are not leaving jobs; they're leaving bosses.
Wow. Yeah, I can totally see that. I've been that before, where the people I worked with, I enjoyed it, and maybe even the type of work, but it was the manager who was maybe just micromanaging me in a sense, or whatever it may be, or it was a toxic situation that I'm like, I can't be a part of this. This is just too toxic for me. So that's interesting.
And so when you were subjected to that micromanagement, how did it make you feel?
Yeah, well, my thing, it's like I never felt empowered. If I was being micromanaged, it's like, do you trust me or not? So
Exactly. Stop there. You hit it on the head. Micromanagement breeds mistrust.
Wow.
It breeds mistrust because it's a demonstration of mistrust. And if I micromanage you, I'm blatantly telling you that I don't think you know how to do your job. And that's a direct reflection on your identity. It has a direct impact on your confidence level. And, worst case scenario, the employee leaves, but they don't leave.
Sure. Yeah. They don't physically leave. They check
out.
Yeah,
they check out. Physically walking out of the door, they'll check out mentally.
So good. So what are some things that you could share with our listeners, like something that we could apply like right now? Like we finish this podcast episode and they're driving into work, they can implement today.
The quickest and fastest way to demonstrate what we call the Black Swan Group tactical empathy is to label emotions, label motivations, label dynamics, label driving forces. Simply saying it looks like, it seems like, it sounds like, fill in the blank.
And you're putting that more on yourself versus projecting that on somebody else.
Well, you're taking what the other side is giving you. So if an employee comes in and says, I hate working with Tom because he doesn't listen to me and it makes me angry, it sounds like you and Tom are not getting along, is the perfect label for that statement.
Mm-hmm.
And that in and of itself is enough to have your employee, number one, see that you are picking up what they're laying down, and number two, show a vested interest in the words that are coming out of their mouth. Because at the end of the day, everybody, I don't care who they are, everybody wants someone else to understand their circumstances, what they're going through, how they feel about it, and what's going on in their world. And if you don't believe me, you can go out and try this tomorrow. You go into your Starbucks, you ask the barista how they're doing, and they respond to you. Let's say they respond to you, I've been going crazy and I can't wait to get off because we have been extremely busy today. And you say it looks like, it seems like, it sounds like this has been a tough day for you and you can't wait to get out of here. And watch how much more information about what's gone on during that day they vomit up because you've taken the time.
That is so cool because you're essentially saying the same thing back to them, like it's like they gave you the script and you just form it as a question back to them. And it's like, it seems like it's extremely successful. That's awesome.
And if you notice, it wasn't really a question.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's like it's a statement.
It was just a statement. And
wow,
you're right. You're always on safe ground when you use it because you're not making anything up out of whole cloth. You're taking what they give you, you repackage it in the form of a label, and you give it right back to them. And so that's what's so seductive about it, is because it's their words coming right back into their ears after it left their mouth.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's so simple because it's like, I think a lot of times people, they want to help, they have a heart to help, or they would feel bad that this barista is having a bad day at Starbucks and having a bad life or whatever it may be. And they think, oh, I just don't know what to say. I've heard that so many times with different things and different interactions with people where they're like, well, I would like to help them or encourage them or whatever, but I just don't know what to say. I'm like, they just told you exactly what to say. That's brilliant.
Yes, and it's an information gathering tool as well. You need to get buy-in. You need to move somebody from point A to point B. They're going to tell you everything that you need to know to make that happen, if you're willing to just sit there and listen. And here's the big thing, is that it takes too much effort. This style of listening takes too much effort, which is why most of us don't do it.
Mm.
You know, most of us, first of all, we fail to realize there are 5 different levels to listening. And out of those 5 different levels, we normally operate most of the day at levels 1 and 2. Level 1 is intermittent listening, where you're listening just long enough to get the gist of what the other person is saying before you refocus on your own internal monologue.
Mm. Wow. I've been guilty of that. Yeah.
Or you're listening for a rebuttal, right? You're listening for them to say something that triggers an argument in you. And now you're just waiting for them to shut up so you can jump into the conversation, tell them how wrong they are.
Wow. Wow. So topical for our nation and our country right now. That's
yeah. How about that?
Oh man, that's helpful. That would change the world if people will apply this. And I'm encouraging people to get a copy, get 10 copies, whatever you need to do. Christmas presents, birthday presents, and get this book, because this is going to help you. It's going to help them. It's like, I'm not trying to overplay it. Like, it will literally change the world if we would just start with what you just said and the different levels of listening. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What would you say as far as the percentage, if you could, just like a ballpark, of the listening versus speaking when you're interacting with somebody? Do you have like a mindset, like a percentage in your mind? Is it 90-10, 70-30? What are your thoughts?
What it should be, or what it is?
Sure. No, that's a great follow-up question too. Let's both. What would you say? What's the gold standard? What's the goal? What's the target? And then what are you currently seeing?
The gold standard is you should be spending at least 70% listening.
Okay.
That's one of the most difficult of all the skills that we teach, is silence.
Wow.
Teaching people to shut the front door. Stop talking.
Yeah.
When you intentionally create a void in a conversation, it motivates people to fill the void. And the motivation comes from discomfort. As human beings, when we are discomforted, when we are uncomfortable, what we want to do more than anything else, and as fast as possible, is to get comfortable again. And silence universally makes people uncomfortable. And so they want to jump in and fill the silence. Now, the most disciplined communicators will probably let that silence last for 9 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And we know that because we've counted. The average is 2 to 3 seconds. That's how long most people are willing to be uncomfortable in silence, is 2 to 3 seconds. So I mentioned labeling earlier. After I throw out a label, I don't follow it with anything else but silence. And I'll just sit there until the other side starts to speak again.
Now I'm totally thinking about how much I'm talking back and commenting on what you're saying. That's hilarious. That's so funny. So you're saying there's a 9-second window, and when would you use the 9-second window? Like during the interrogation, or?
No, I use it. I use it anytime I want them to expand on a point,
wow,
or to encourage them to give me more information.
Okay.
And so, for the Starbucks person, I would say, it sounds like you've had a really, really tough day. And I would leave that much silence in there. And that would be enough to prompt them to speak again.
Wow. That is awesome. I need to get better at that. That's brilliant. I love to listen and I love to learn, but I feel at times that I am that guy because I want people to feel comfortable. And so I'm just going to naturally throw in some sort of sentence or comment or word or something in there to fill that void. That's so funny.
Yeah, and one of the things that we tell all of our clients, our coaching clients, or our participants in our one-day live events is don't step on your label. And stepping on your label is jumping back into the conversation too quickly.
Okay.
So going back to the Starbucks example, they tell me what's going on, and I say, it sounds like you have had a really, really tough day because you've been extremely busy. That's a sign of stepping on your label. Anytime you feel yourself wanting to say but, and, or because, replace it with silence.
That is amazing. I can start using that. I'm gonna use that today, after we get off this call. I can start getting better at that. Yeah. So the follow-up question I had was, what do you think the percentages now that people, we know the gold standard 70-30. What would you say people do today?
Probably 90-10, because we're so focused on our own agenda and where we want to end up that we don't go in to understand. We go in to be understood.
Wow.
And we're focused on where we want to wind up and how can I get the conversation to the things that I want. In negotiations, whether business, I will just keep it in the business realm. In business negotiation, people want to come in and they want to throw all their data and information on the table to justify why the opposite side should do X. And then they get pushback and they can't understand why. And that's largely because we haven't taken the time to demonstrate to the other side that we get the way they view this circumstance. We're so focused on where we want to end up that we haven't taken the time to understand where it is that they want to end up. And so we lead with our golden objectives and we get pushback and we don't know what to do after that. As a hostage negotiator, I'll ask you, Matt, as a hostage negotiator, what was my goal and objective?
Well, to save and preserve human life, depending on the situation.
To save and preserve human life. In essence, to get him to surrender the hostages to me and then subsequently surrender himself, right? Now I'll ask you a follow-up question. How many times do you think I led with that when I called inside the crisis site and got the bad guy on the phone? How many times do you think I called in and said, hey, Matt, it's Derek from the police department. My goal and objective is the preservation of human life. And so what I'd like you to do is let all those people go, and then you put down your weapon and you come out after.
I want to say 0 times.
Yeah, but here's the question. Why? Why would it be 0? If that's my goal and objective, why didn't I lead with that?
That's a good point. Oh, geez. I guess it's too much on the nose. Maybe that person doesn't feel like they have power or they have control, or maybe it's empathy. It's the other empathy side of that too, that they're not being understood or heard.
Exactly. I haven't demonstrated that I get what they're going through. I haven't demonstrated that I understand all of the emotions that are surrounding the circumstance that they in, and as such, I haven't built up any rapport with them, so I don't have any trust-based influence. And if I don't have any trust-based influence, I'm not going to encourage a change in their behavior. Mm-hmm. Because in law enforcement or business world, that's what we're ultimately trying to do: change the behavior of the other side.
So is it almost like you're making a deposit into almost like a bank account with this relationship, like you're depositing, but then you're going to have to debit something. You're going to have to ask for something in return.
You got it. I couldn't have said that better myself. And it's all about sequencing. We get the sequencing wrong. We want to go in with our goal and objective first. And I'm telling you, it's tactical empathy first, and then you can march down the road to making your ask, giving them your case in chief, stating what your goal and objective is.
That's amazing. And what's so amazing is the stakes are so high. For example, in a hostage negotiation, the stakes couldn't be higher. We're talking about life and death, and you don't have a lot of time. you don't have 6 months to a year to get to know this person. What's their personality profile? And what's their what's the 5 love languages? And what were they like as a kid? And like, that's amazing.
Yeah, time is of the essence. And so the foundation that we built the Black Swan method on was derived from situations that were high stakes. And so we kept the skills simple, relatively simple, because that's what cops want. They want something that's actionable and simple and can be used in an expedited manner. And with these skills in the business world, we are intentionally slowing things down to accelerate the outcome.
Well, Derek, this has been amazing content, and it's been super helpful to me. I know it's super helpful to our listeners. The book is Ego, Authority, Failure, Using Emotional Intelligence Like a Hostage Negotiator to Succeed as a Leader. And what I love is you guys, when we talked with Brandon before on the show, that it is an intense topic. And he said there was a challenge to bridge the gap between like, well, we're a paper company with 50 employees. How does hostage negotiation relate? And I think, ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard exactly how you can start applying this stuff today. And that's what we love to do at EntreNito, is to help you. We don't want to just check a box and say, oh yeah, we had so-and-so on and we had so-and-so on, promoted this, promoted that. We want actionable takeaways, which is totally what happened today. So before we go, is there just a final closing thought, something you'd want to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, the book is Ego, Authority, Failure. And the first 2 words are really where you want to focus, because ego is an emotion that clouds judgment, and authority supports and feeds ego. And both of those are the mother and father of toxic leadership. They instill fear. They influence the actions of coworkers and employees, creating anger, resentment, mistrust, hostility. So understanding ego and authority from that perspective will put you on the track for improving your leadership performance, creating more high-performing teams, and getting more buy-in from those who work around you.
That's awesome. So interesting. Well, thank you so much. Before we go, could you just promote away just the websites, and we have the book, but anything else you'd like to promote before we go?
Just blackswanlimited.com, blackswanltd.com. Check out our announcements for the live events. You can also check out what we offer on our online campus, sign up for the free emails, or give us a question or two about what our coaching services look like. And of course, Ego, Authority, Failure is available to you at Amazon.
Awesome. Well, we will have all that in the show notes as well. Derek, this has been super helpful today. Thank you so much for your time.
Matt, I appreciate it. Take care of yourself, and let's talk again soon.
Would love that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of EntreNito. We'd like to invite you to visit us on the web at EntreNito.com, and here's some of the Nito things you can expect when you get there. As a token of our appreciation for tuning in, you can download a free audiobook, and that's thanks to our friends at Audible. You can purchase your very own super official, super comfy, and super trendy Nito t-shirt. Looking to take your life and business to the next level? You can sign up for a free coaching call. Have a question or comment for us? You can click contact and connect with us. All of this and more is waiting for you at EntreNito.com. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to our show and stay current on all the amazing interviews with our Nito guests. Now take what you've learned and apply it and start living your Nito life now.